Welcome into Thursday, April 17th edition of Daily Faceoff Live. We are live on the Daily Faceoff YouTube, where, as always, looking for your inbox questions, drop them in there. We're going to talk with Jay Rosehill in a little bit as well. First, I got to tell you, the show is brought to you by Bet365. Download the app, use the promo code NATION, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. And Frank, it is the finale of the regular season in the NHL, and it means nothing because the playoff picture is set.
Yeah, it means nothing unless you're like the Dallas Stars and you get thumped by the Nashville Predators for your 7th loss in a row, and Jason Robertson walks out of the arena wearing a knee brace in your season finale. Then yeah, I mean, I guess they mean nothing.
Yeah, and maybe a bit of a lesson to the playoff teams that are in action tonight. Toronto, Carolina, Ottawa, Tampa, a handful of others mixed in there as well. The LA Kings. Maybe you just sit some guys tonight. Maybe not everyone needs to play.
And that's kind of what I took from the Carolina Hurricanes. I mean, I know some people will say, hey, look, diving into our first topic, the Montreal Canadiens punched their ticket to the Stanley Cup playoffs. And yeah, they did it against a Carolina team that didn't play Sebastian Aho or Jacob Slavin or all of their big-time regulars. But why would you when you've got your matchup and your seeding sewn up? That's the perfect opportunity to stick in other players. I mean, you end up with a situation like Dallas did last night. It's tough.
Yeah, it is tough. We're going to give our full predictions, West, East, and then all the way through the bracket. Like I said, off the jump, Jay Rosehill is going to help us preview the Battle of Ontario in our big segment. But first, Va Bien Montreal. They're doing pretty good, Frank. That's about all the French I can mix in on a day-to-day basis. But it's a clinch for Montreal. And I guess let's just start with like a bigger picture look at this thing. How surprised are you that Jeff Gorton and company were able to turn this group into a playoff team as quick as they did?
Not very surprised, and this isn't revisionist history because you've heard me say on the DFO rundown for 18 months now that this Montreal Canadiens team has a playoff-ready offense. They do, and then add in a player like Ivan Davidov at the end of the year, who's a high-end talent player, and they're suddenly a live dog in round one. Their issue had been on defense, and then you bring in someone like Lane Hutson who helps transition the puck the other way. He's not going to win, Norris trophies on the back of his play in his own end through his first season, but that doesn't matter. What he's brought to the table has solidified or helped solidify that position, and they got just enough of goaltending in order to make it work. Like, this Canadiens team has energy. They've got mojo. They've got momentum. And they're a team that I think is going to be an interesting one to watch the arc of their success, because they still have a significant chunk of their prospect pool that is a little bit of a ways away. Like, you didn't get your hands on a David Reinbacher yet. And we're still kind of with some ups and downs this season, dealing with some inconsistencies for a Uri Slafkovsky. And they've got other pieces to fill out. This is a fascinating build for the Canadiens that I think arrives not ahead of schedule, but on a really nice track.
Yeah, it does. And they're going to be in a really, really unique spot going forward the next couple of years. How about Lane Hutson? He wraps up an exceptional rookie season, finishing 53 points clear of the next rookie defenseman. I mean, if someone would have told a Habs fan at the start of the year, hey, Lane Hutson's going to put up 53 points, it would have been like, that's a really solid season. That's great. 53 points clear of the next rookie D-man is just like, pfft.
Yeah, you just gave everyone a window into how difficult it was to pick a second rookie defenseman for the all-rookie team in my NHL awards ballot, because there is none. Secret, told, like, it usually every year, like, you've got someone like, hey, that guy's a perfect fill-in. The options this year were like Drew Hellison, Denton Matejchuk, I think good players on a great track, but no one even really played a full season's worth of games to be eligible for the second spot on my all rookie team. I think it speaks to the impact that Hutson has had in the game, but B, how difficult it is to be an impact rookie defenseman. There just aren't that many of them because it takes time.
Yeah, it does. I like even look at only 3 rookie defensemen, to your point, played north of 50 games this year, which is just crazy. Lane Hudson, the only one to play all 82, and now he'll get a chance to play an 83rd game as the Habs are going to the playoffs. And we'll talk about them more in a second, but maybe just to close on this Habs topic, there's kind of 2 ways to view a young team like this who gets into the playoffs. You can go, whoa, they are going to get punched in the mouth by playoff hockey, and it's a tough adjustment. Or you can sit there and say, it's youthful ignorance. They might just not know any better. They got all these good vibes, all this energy. The Bell Center is going to be rocking. Maybe they thrive on that and surprise us in the moment. Which way do you lean more towards?
I think it's a combination of everything that you just mentioned. Like, I would lean toward this team not even knowing what it doesn't know, like just enjoying the ride because they're playing with house money. They qualified for the playoffs and they're on their way. But I'd also add into that equation, which makes this series interesting and spicy, is the Washington Capitals aren't as good of a team as the standings would indicate, and the gap that they've created between themselves and everyone else. It's like that objects in mirror are closer than they appear. That's how I view the Caps and their situation. So you take a team with some momentum and energy and youthful energy at that, the inexperience, but in a good way, because they're not like, there's no pressure on them. They're not clutching their sticks. And then the next thing is a Caps team that also probably entered the postseason on a down note. And I think this is going to be a fascinating series.
Yeah, it is. So we're going to talk about that in a second. But Frank, let's go through the West to start. The 4 matchups, obviously, all confirmed up. So let me just start with the question of which series do you think has the potential to maybe surprise us the most? Is it one of those 2 wild card teams moving on? Is it Dallas maybe putting up a bit better of a fight than we think they will? Like, we know that series with Dallas and Colorado is going to be close. That's not what I'm saying, but it feels like everyone's pointing to the vibes and the recent play of the Avs and going, okay, they should win that one. But out of those 4 in the West, which one do you think could surprise us?
I was actually going to take it and turn it another way, in that I think that there's an opportunity that Colorado Dallas series could be relatively short. Take the Robertson situation. Then on the other hand, you've got Miro Heiskanen and the injury that looms large over that series, plus a Dallas team that's lost 7 in a row. 0-5-2 heading into the postseason. Like that's not a great vibe. That's not a great feel. Yes, they've got depth. Yes, they've got scoring punch, but I don't think the Dallas Stars properly solved their issues on the right side of their defense. And taking out your top left shot guy in Miro Heiskanen puts you in a tough spot. So that's maybe my surprise, would be that the Avs might be able to, I'm going to underline that. That would be a real surprise, would be making it short.
It's always dangerous to use this question, Frank, but is there one series where you're most confident in your prediction?
In the West?
Yeah.
I would say in Winnipeg beating St. Louis.
Yeah, that's another one I think could be relatively short. And I saw a great interaction on Twitter. There was a Blues fan who said, Binnington's outdueled Hellebuck once this year. He can do it again. And someone goes back and goes, yeah, he had Connor McDavid on that team. It's not the same thing here. And I mean, no. Connor Hellebuck coming off an insane regular season. And I get it. Big game Jordan Binnington, all that. But like, we have a Blues fan who was the first one in our chat today wondering, hey, is Binnington going to start every game? Do you think we'll see Joel Hofer? I think this is quite the mismatch, despite St. Louis's great finish to the year.
Yeah, I don't think it's like a crazy lopsided series, but I just don't know the path. I can't envision a path that the Blues are going to win it. They don't have the edge in net. They don't have the edge on defense, and they don't have the edge at forward in either high-end talent or in depth. So help me pick or create a lane for St. Louis to win.
It's really hard, especially if Dylan Holloway's not going to play. And I know Colton Parayko's back in the lineup. That obviously gives them a really, really big boost. But without Holloway, I view this forward group a little bit different. It's obviously a little bit thinner. And I think that third line for Winnipeg, we talked about this earlier in the week, that third line in Winnipeg could be a bit of a difference maker.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the depth that they have, underestimate that at your own peril. Like that third and fourth line, they're legit, and they battle and they compete.
All right, so give me sort of rapid fire again. We're going to do our full brackets in a bit, so we won't put them up and spoil them yet. But your rapid fire, the 4 teams you got advancing in the West.
Okay, so I've got the Jets in 6. I've got the Avalanche in 6. I've got the Golden Knights in 6, and I've got the Oilers in 6.
All right, I have the Oilers in 6. I have the Wild in 7. That's going to be my stunner. That's the one I think is going to have people's jaws on the floor. I got the Avs in 6, and I do have the Blues pushing them a little bit. I went Jets in 6 as well. So let's go to the East here.
Did I hear
now
you say that did you say you picked the Kings? Sorry, I'm just kidding.
No, sorry, Oilers in 6. I maybe misspoke. Or
No,
you're
you
bugging.
didn't. I'm just grinding you.
Let's go to the East here. Again, we're going to talk Battle of Ontario in a little bit, but what about the Battle of Florida, Frank? I see a lot of split opinions on this one. A handful of people going, hey, the Florida Panthers are the defending Stanley Cup champions, back-to-back trips to the Cup final. And yes, they were banged up down the stretch, but getting a lot of those guys back. Aaron Ekblad will have to miss the first couple of games, but then he returns to the lineup, and Tkachuk and Bennett and go down the list. But it's interesting to look at this board we have up and see that Tampa has them beat in goals for, goals against, power play, and penalty kill. I think the Bolts are the better team.
Well, they have home ice, so the record would indicate that they were the better team in the regular season. I would say that, look, I have a hard time. Not a hard time. I'm trying to properly evaluate the Florida Panthers because we haven't seen a full view of what they look like, even kind of since the Seth Jones trade, which was before the deadline. We haven't seen an iteration yet with Matthew Tkachuk, Brad Marchand, Sam Bennett, all those guys on the ice, which are an absolute handful to play against. And I didn't even mention Barkov and Reinhart. So look, I understand everyone's thought process about, hey, there's a compounding effect on the hockey that you've seen played by the Florida Panthers over the last 2 years. That'll get you. But at the same time, Tampa should be intimately familiar with that argument because they were the team that had won 2 Stanley Cups back to back. That third year, they got to the Stanley Cup final again and lost to the Avs. This time around, I just think a lot of people are looking past the Panthers because of how they enter the playoffs, as opposed to saying you haven't seen them at full strength yet. And I think that's the biggest wild card is how healthy is Matthew Tkachuk?
Yeah, that again, he's missed a significant chunk of time, and there's just never a guarantee that someone can step back into the lineup and go back to being their usual dominant self. Let's go to the 2 series in the Metro. Granted, one of those teams is a crossover from the Atlantic, but I think a lot of people would go, okay, the Washington Capitals, great regular season. Montreal, great story, but Washington will maybe put them in their place. I actually think the other series has a chance to be quicker than Montreal-Washington. I think Carolina could maybe run this thing pretty quick.
I agree. I have the Canes winning that series in a sweep. Since January 1st, since the calendar turned over, the New Jersey Devils were the 28th best team in the NHL in points gained. I mean, it's not been a good run of hockey. Obviously, no Jack Hughes. Dougie Hamilton has been banged up of late. And I just think Carolina has significant advantages in almost every aspect of the game. And throw in the fact that someone said, hey, Jacob Markstrom, he could steal you a series. I would look how poorly he's played down the stretch, especially since March 1st. I would be starting Jake Allen in game 1, not even Jacob Markstrom. So I get the idea. And we had Devin Dubnyk on earlier this week. He talked about higher ceiling for Jacob Markstrom. Okay, sure. But I want the guy who's played better in net. So I'm going to take Canes in 4, a sweep. I'm going to go Washington in 7. I think Montreal gives them just enough pain. And I'm going to go Florida in 7 over Tampa. And I've got my stunner, my upset in this bracket is Ottawa beating Toronto in 6.
In 6, not even getting to a 7th. Okay. In the East, I'm going Canes in 5. I am going Habs in 7. I don't know. I got a good feeling about the Bell Center rocking. I like Sam Montembeault too. I get Logan Thompson's had an unbelievable season, but maybe
Not
it's just
healthy.
too much of a vibes-based pick. But if you're saying it gets to 7, at that point we're talking coin flip. So I'm also going Lightning in 6, and I'm going to say Leafs in 7, which Frank brings us to our full brackets. And I can maybe let you go first here. What do you got from round 2 onward, and then we'll lead up to it with our Stanley Cup pick.
Okay, so yeah, here's my bracket. I've got the Sens losing to the Cats in the Kachuk Bowl. I've got the Canes waltzing to the Eastern Conference Final. And I've got the Panthers playing in a third straight final. This is actually a rematch from the Cup final a couple years ago. I've got the Avs knocking off the Jets in 6, the Vegas Golden Knights beating the Oilers, and then a really good West final between Avs and Vegas. I've got Vegas winning that. So my Stanley Cup champion is the Golden Knights. I just think they're the team that no one's really talking about. They were the 4th hottest team since the Four Nations break, 17-5-4. They've got a really big mobile defense. Their goaltender has already won them a Stanley Cup, and they've got a complete forward group where, hey, like, did you know that Dorofeyev scored 34 goals this year? Like, they've got a better, offensive punch than a lot of people realize. And so with all the focus elsewhere on, hey, the Oilers played in the final last year, the Jets being a juggernaut, or the Avs are stars, why isn't anyone talking about the Golden Knights? What do you got?
This is the beauty of the madness of the playoffs. I got Vegas out in round 1 because I think we're due for a stunner, and I think that series is just going to be a whole bunch of 1-goal games, and why not take the underdog if you think they're all coin flips? I got Edmonton getting past Minnesota right after. I have Colorado rolling through Winnipeg relatively easily. In the East, I said I had the Leafs in 7, and I think it's a little bit of like the monkey off the back exercise their demons. They're going to go all the way to the Stanley Cup final. I think the Habs are going on a miracle run, and we'll have this great Eastern Conference rivalry renewed series. But in the Cup final, it's the Avs and their star power. I actually think the goaltending would be close. I think the blue lines are relatively close, but the Avs have stars who have done it on the big stage before, and that'll be the difference. So I have the Avs beating the Leafs in the Stanley Cup final. I mean, why not? Get a little weird.
Hey, I mean, I'm all for it. I think the eyeballs on the sport would be tremendous.
Yeah. All right. On that note, great segue. And I didn't just do this to score some brownie points with our next guest, but
Sure you
Jay
did.
Rosehill from Leafs Morning Take. The big segment is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers, proudly Canadian owned and operated since 1972. And you can apply for a Charm Diamond Flexity card today to get approved for no interest financing on your purchase in minutes. For more information, go to charmdiamondcenters.com. Former Toronto Maple Leaf, one half of Leaf Morning Take. What do you make of my prediction there, Rosie?
Looking sharp, Tyler. I'm surprised. My goodness, all the way to the finals. I didn't know you had that in you, but opposite of Frank, obviously. But hey, that's why we watch. Nobody knows what's going to happen.
Exactly. And I was listening to your show today, and Nick Alberga was kind of throwing caution to the listeners, saying like, hey, don't look past this Ottawa Senators team. The Battle of Ontario, it's going to be a spicy one, but a lot of talk this year has been, hey, is this Leafs team different under Craig Berube? For you, what's the number one reason to believe that this Leafs team is actually different?
I think the well-roundedness of the group. I mean, you've got contributions now from the bottom 6. Your defense is much better, and your goaltending situation is miles better than you've ever been. And again, that hasn't even really been their main problem in the playoffs in the past. It's been their big boys scoring the big goals. So the big boys are what they are. They're going to be there. That you can't change that. They need to step up. I think that's going to be the story at the end of the day. But as a team, I think they're much more well-rounded than they have been in the past, and they have things that they haven't had that are going to help them.
Yeah, Jay, I agree with you. I think this team is more well-positioned than it has been over the last number of years. But one thing that is different about this team this year as opposed to the last few is the status of Austin Matthews, obviously playing, but hasn't been anywhere near the threat that he had been the last few regular seasons, obviously due to injury and whatever he's managing. So if we have questions about this team and their big boys stepping up to score goals, do you feel a little bit more uneasy about those guys contributing just based on the status of Matthews alone?
Well, it's a concern for sure. I mean, we saw what he did last year, and he's scoring at will. I mean, he was scoring from the half wall. He's scoring from everywhere. And I mean, even you look at their last game here this week, he got 3 grade A chances where you're used to seeing him finish that, and his shot just doesn't seem to be there like it has been in the past. I'm not sure if he's nursing it a little bit in preparation for the playoffs, but with all the positives going on with this team right now, one of the caveats is how healthy is Austin Matthews and how much can he contribute. But at the end of the day, I don't think there is a team that's going into the playoffs right now that is 100% healthy. He's going to have to try and overcome that. And you got a lot of firepower elsewhere in Mitch Marner and William Nylander, the way John Tavares has been scoring this year. Matthew Knies has come on so strong. I think he's going to be a big factor in this series. So he's got help and support, but we're going to wait and see. And it definitely is a concern that people are going to be watching.
Okay, so let's talk goaltending, because we all know Anthony Stolarz has stood tall for this team. Tremendous first 20-some games of the year, had the injury, came back, and has rounded into form again. These numbers are pretty eye-popping at .926. So he's obviously your game one starter, but I think in talking to some guys who know the position way better than I do, they'd say, well, Joe Woll's still the guy at the end of the day that has a higher ceiling. You start with Stolarz, and Berube has been kind of clear that he wants to ride one guy. Would you rotate at all?
Not unless you have to. I mean, people it's nice that you have two solid goaltenders, 2 good options, and everyone was wondering about this week in particular, what's going to be the story leading into the playoffs and who are you going to go with and why, and will it be controversial? And it seems like Stoli has just popped off. You look at those numbers, he's got back-to-back shutouts, 3 shutouts in the last 4 games. He's 8-0 in his last 8. I mean, he just decided for you that he's your guy you're going to start with. And I don't think when you talk about a goaltender that's got that going on for him, you're going to say he's on a short leash. Like, that's just not even fair. I don't even think he has a leash. But if, depending on how a loss happens or a couple of losses or how this series is going, it's not as big of a decision to change goaltenders, because you do have a Joseph Woll waiting in the wings. He has some experience in the playoffs. He's elevated his game in the playoffs. Like you said, there's guys in the know that think that his ceiling is very high. So if it is something that you think is going to make your team better, I don't think Craig Berube will hesitate at all. But that's not to say that Stolarz is on a short leash.
Let me ask you maybe the flip side of that first question, and not to be, doomsday or anything for the Leafs, but if there's one thing when you look at this Ottawa Senators team that maybe would concern you from a Leafs perspective about them, what would it be? What's the one area where you think they maybe have an advantage?
Well, I think they're built for the playoffs. You just look at their leader in Brady Tkachuk, and you know how that guy plays. You know what he's got in his veins, and it's Stanley Cup playoff hockey in spades. He has never played in them before. He's going to be amped up. You saw him in the Four Nations Faceoff. That was high-end, intense hockey and kind of took everyone by surprise. But he was leading the charge with the intensity level that he brought. And you know they're going to be ready, and they're going to play playoff hockey. And if you look at the Toronto Maple Leafs and some of their shortcomings in the playoffs in the past, I don't think they were ready to play playoff hockey. I don't think they were ready to adjust to the intensity level that got ramped up. Now, they've talked about learning lessons and developing as a team, and they've got new systems in place. And I mean, you would think that they are going to be prepared for it this year, but I do believe that, the Ottawa Senator brand of hockey, even though they are a wild card, I think it's suited for the playoffs, and they're going to try to lead with that.
Yeah, and Rosie, that's why I ended up picking the Sens in the end. Is we've got the hiccups with the Leafs and their big core 4 moving forward. I need to see it first, I guess, in order for me to believe it. And when we do see it, I think it's entirely possible that they go on a run. That said, give me your X factor. Like, give me one player that you think if they have a massive round 1, the Leafs are moving on.
It could be any of the big boys, but I mean, I look at Matthew Knies and what he's done lately. I mean, he's playing, you talk about matchups, right? And you look at that Stützle line against Matthews, Marner, and Matthew Knies. And then you go back and you're going to look at McCabe and Tanever going to munch a lot of minutes against that top line of Ottawa Senators. And you haven't even got back to the third layer of having Anthony Stolarz back there. I think it's going to be very difficult for Stützle to match up against Austin Matthews. He is a big body. You you complement that with the way Matthew Nyes has been playing. He's a power forward with a lot of skills, and he's only getting more and more confidence and developing by the day. And then there's Mitch Marner on the other side, where he understands the defensive side of the game. He can make plays. He's oozing confidence right now too. I think the matchups are going to take over, and that's why I think the Leafs are going to end up winning it. I got them to win it in 6. Although it's not going to be easy, but I think you're going to look at Matthew Nyes at the end of the series, and if they have success, the Toronto Maple Leafs, you're going to look at him as being a guy who had a big hand in it.
Jay, you played in a handful of battles of Ontario in the regular season. You got into one fight from the research I did. Do you remember who it was with?
Probably Frankie Lassard, I would have to think.
You nailed it on February 19th of 2011. You guys took 10-minute misconducts in the first period, then you shedded them in the second period. If I had to ask you another one for hockey fights, over under 1.5 fights in this series?
I think it's going to be under. I think you could get one out of somebody. I think if Brady Tkachuk is crossing the line too much and being a little bit crazy and somebody gets tangled up with him, or maybe Domi gets involved with somebody, it's something like that. But I would be surprised if there's more than one. It is the playoffs where that goes down, but I kind of hope I'm wrong. I hope there's fireworks. I hope there's sweat and blood and tears, and I hope it's everything everyone expects and hopes it to be.
Yeah, I think the hockey world does too. All right. Appreciate it, Rosie. Enjoy the playoffs, and we'll chat soon.
You guys too. Thanks for having me.
All right, Frank, let's move along to our daily face-off inbox question, hashtag askdfo. We got one earlier, and it was, I guess, again, another bigger picture question, but it's which team that made the playoffs last year but missed this year should be most concerned about their long-term future. So I got the teams for you here. Your options are Vancouver, Nashville, the Islanders, the Rangers, or the Bruins. Out of those 5, which one do you think is going to, I guess, have the toughest time getting back to being a playoff team next year?
Nashville is the team I'd be most concerned about their long-term future. I mean, you look at basically what they did last summer. They handed out a ton of dough to older, aging players. And the thought process was, well, we're paying Saros, we're paying Yossi, we're paying Forsberg. These guys are all on the wrong side of 30. We're going to pile in these vets. We're going to be a cup contending team. And then, years 3, 4, 5 of these contracts, like, we'll deal with that when we have to. The premise of that was making the playoffs this year and next. You finished in 30th place. So I think the Nashville Predators are in a very, very difficult position moving forward.
Yeah, a lot of big old money on the books there. We talked about that this morning on the DFO Rundown. New episode of that, wherever you get your podcasts from. Let's go to our daily bets for Bet365. Breaking news from Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime win is a barn burner and every suspenseful moment in between is amazing. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365, an official partner of the NHL. Download the Bet365 app. Use the code NATION to get in on the game. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. A couple here. We're both high on the Jets. We're both high on the Avs. Parlaying them to each win their series in any amount of games is plus 146. I don't mind going there. Again, you could take them on the series spread minus 1.5, and it really juices it up, but I'm just playing it safe with a futures bet here. Do you not like that plus 146 price tag? Not juicy enough, Frank?
I just don't like parlaying any series together. I just think it's so unpredictable that the odds, like plus 146 isn't juicy enough for me to do it.
The next one I got, player to lead a series in points, not goals, but points. Nathan MacKinnon is plus 125. He's far and away the favorite. I like MacKinnon at plus 125. I also like Connor McDavid at plus 165 in the Edmonton LA series, although Leon Draisaitl could have something to say there. MacKinnon at plus 125. Again, even if the Avs lose or this series goes deeper than we think, I think getting plus odds on MacKinnon to put up the most points is good value.
It's not good value. Plus 125 is like, you need juice. Like I would be way more inclined to look at this and take Makar at plus 550 than I would to take MacKinnon at 125.
And I just have a hard time thinking that it's not going to be
30 goal, 90 plus point, like potentially, like he could have gotten to 100 points this year, defenseman. Like this is not a guy who struggles putting up points.
116 points for MacKinnon, though? No? All right. Let's go over to garbage time, Frank. New episode of Frankly Speaking with, I guess you'd call him former head coach Jay Woodcroft. Spent a couple of years behind the Oilers bench. You had a chance to chat with him about a whole bunch of different things, but let's take a sneak peek, a little listen in.
In going through this process, for me, one of the things that I've had to do is live the advice that I give to players as their coach. So when I think about that, it's something I would talk with some of my teams about, is just patient endurance. And, I would say to players, sometimes things don't happen on the timetable you want them to. It could be whether a guy starts the season on the power play, or if he's battling to get in the lineup or not in the lineup, or if he's an American League player, he's looking for his call up. I think back to coaching in the American League, a lot of times you talk about people that have to be comfortable waiting in the bullpen almost. They're waiting for an injury, or they're waiting for an opportunity for themselves to go up. It's no different than the position or chair that I'm sitting in right now, but I'm waiting with expectancy. I'm looking to find the right organization, the right fit, the right partners, and I'm looking for alignment in that organization when I do take my next position.
What else did you take away from your conversation with Woodcroft, Frank?
Well, the premise really was, okay, so you've been out of coaching for 18 months now, and this next coaching cycle is about to begin. What'd you do with your time? How did you fill it? So what do coaches do when they're not working? And for Jay Woodcroft, the answer is fascinating. He literally traveled the globe to talk with teams and coaches about what they're learning and how he can add to his repertoire. And then the other part is, how do you get back in again? What's the interview process like? How do you prepare? And so as we embark on a new coaching cycle now, my thing is, how does he fall into the mix, and how do you best prepare yourself to get another job? So maybe some applicable conversations for people in all walks of life, not just in the sports or coaching world.
Is there a spot where maybe the coaching position might open up where you think, like, man, he'd be a good fit?
I think there's a lot. Look, 683 points percentage. Like, he's a guy that I'm kind of surprised didn't get a job last cycle around, and he just missed out on the Columbus job that went to Dean Evison. I'm looking at this group, and I would think that, to me, if Rocket is not back in Vancouver, I would look very strong at Jay Woodcroft.
Interesting. All right. That is a wrap on today's edition of Daily Faceoff Live. We are off tomorrow for the holiday, but back on Monday when a handful of series, more than half of them, will have already gotten underway. Enjoy the long weekend, everybody, and we'll see you Monday, noon Eastern. What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you're going to want to hit the subscribe button to not miss any of our content. From daily live shows with Frank Seravalli, to analysis from former NHLers, to exclusive interviews with some of the biggest names in the hockey world on Frankly Speaking. You're going to want to hit that subscribe button and stay up to date with everything going on in the hockey world.